Welcome to Friar Territory, everyone, part of the Foul Territory Network. I'm Annie Heilbrunn, pleased to be guest hosting today here with Kyle Glaser. Kyle, how are you today?
Doing all right, Annie. Glad to be on with you. We've obviously spent a lot of time talking Padres baseball and Petco Park Press Box over the year, and happy to be here doing it with you on Friar Territory.
Absolutely. Happy to be here as well and have some fun today talking a little Padres. Before we jump into it, though, let's let everyone know that we have a great giveaway going on right now in our chat and BCC group chat. Think you know ball? Prove it in our trivia game for a shot at winning an authentic MLB jersey of your choice worth up to $400. Here's how to enter. Sign up at foulterritory.chat, play trivia, crush it, and you might win. We're picking one winner from the top scorers at random. Deadline is July 13th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern. So get in there, play, win, and brag. All right, Kyle, let's talk a little Padres. Padres in the middle of a 10-game homestand before the All-Star break. They are currently sitting at 50-43 after a win against the Diamondbacks last night to split the series. So 7 games over 500, 5.5 games back of the Dodgers. But Kyle, they're 5-5 in their last 10. And to me, that's emblematic of what the Padres have been lately, which is sort of treading water. What are you seeing?
That's exactly what they're doing right now. When you look at this Diamondbacks team coming into the series, the D-backs have lost 8 of 11. They've been absolutely hammered by injuries. They got Corbin Carroll back for the series, but losing Corbin Burns, losing Gabriel Moreno, this was not a team playing well. And they came in and for good chunks of the series were in complete control. The Padres were able to win last night, but they had to come back, another comeback win. And right now, if you look at the Padres, the biggest concern is they're 16-30 against teams with winning records this year. You go back to that hot start, they go 7-0 against the Braves and the Guardians. You're thinking, wow, this is a great team. They just took out 2 teams who were playoff contenders. Well, the Braves and Guardians are actually a lot worse than we thought they were. They're both sub 500 right now. And so right now, if you're the Padres, this is what it's been. They're competitive and kind of at the same level as these teams that are right around 500 in terms of how these games are shaking out. And they're not able to take care of business against teams with winning records. All indications are right now, the Padres, this is kind of what they are. They're an average to slightly above average team.
Yeah, exactly. And so many close games, those can really wear you down. I mean, they're thrilling, they're exhilarating. You're able to pull off a 1-0 win or a 4-3 win like they did last night. But at the same time, you've got to go to all your big horses in the bullpen. You've got to play pretty perfect baseball in order to pull those off.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's a confidence boost. We did it. We were able to grit that out, as Mike Schultz said. But it can also wear you down, as the season goes on. I thought the Diamondbacks look like a team that if they just had a few pieces in the bullpen, they're a pretty potent offense. I mean, they could be really dangerous, and it's hard to tell what exactly they're going to do, but just makes it harder in the division, right?
There's no question about it. I will say, if you want to give the Padres credit and look for a positive, because again, there's a lot of negatives around the Padres right now, and deservedly so. This is a sub 500 team since May 15th. But the Diamondbacks, as you mentioned, have one of the best offenses in baseball. They were the highest scoring offense in baseball last year. They're top 5 again this year. And the Padres pitching staff once again stepped up, did the job, were able to keep the team in games. And we've seen that all year. And I think it's really important just to appreciate what this pitching staff has done. Despite not having Yu Darvish for almost the entire season, just getting him back now, despite Joe Musgrove being out for the year after having Tommy John surgery, despite Michael King being out with a nerve issue in his neck and shoulder, despite Dylan Cease pitching to a mid to high 4s ERA. The Padres are top 10 in ERA, WHIP, opponent's average strikeouts. This pitching staff deserves a ton of credit. The bullpen's been obviously the biggest key there, but starting rotation too. Give credit to Stephen Kolek, Ryan Berger stepping up. Nick Pivetta has been great. And that's what's so encouraging about this team if you want to be the optimist. This is a playoff caliber pitching staff. Not to mention the defense is solid. They're 6th in defensive efficiency, or tied for 6th, I should say. Base running wise, they're really, really strong. They're up near the top of the league in terms of stolen base percentage, first to thirds, scoring from first on doubles. They're really good at 3 of the 4 components of baseball: pitching, defense, and base running. The offense has just been so terrible. It kind of overwhelms everything else.
Yeah. It's really well said. But you know what? I'm glad you brought up the silver lining, because it's true. I mean, you can either look at this Padres team as glass half empty or glass half full. The glass half empty are all the negatives that we mentioned earlier. Hey, how are they going to keep doing this? It seems like it's not sustainable. Yeah. But the positives are they're 7 games over 500. They're a half game out of the wild card race with all those things you just mentioned.
Yeah.
not having Yu Darvish, not having Joe Musgrove, not having Michael King, Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr. being one of their biggest slumps for the season, throughout their career to start the season. So there's all these things that you feel like if they get a little better, a little healthier, a little better, and I think that they will offensively, then this could also be a very dangerous team. We know how Mike Schilt has his really good second halves usually. This could also be a really dangerous team, but it just kind of is dependent on a lot of those ifs.
And that's the biggest thing. There's just so many ifs. It's hard to be fully confident. Now, look, you've been in the Padres clubhouse. I've been in the Padres clubhouse. The message is, hey, we got hot in the second half last year. We can do it again this year. And it's a fair point. The Padres were 51-51 a day after the All-Star break last year. They were a 500 team later in the calendar than this year's team is. This year's team is ahead of last year's team. But last year's team, there was a sense of, okay, they're treading water. They're going to get all their horses back with Tatis coming back in August. And, Musgrove and Darvish were just getting going. I think the concern with this year's team is, with the exception of Musgrove and maybe King, you kind of feel like all the pieces are there offensively. This is what the Padres have. There's no one coming to the rescue. And that's concerning when you consider just how bad this offense has been. I go back again to that May 15th date. That's when the Padres were 27-15, a season high 12 games over 500. They're 27th in the majors in runs scored since then, 27th in batting average, 29th in OPS. The teams around them that are bracketing them, it's the Rockies, it's the Pirates, it's the White Sox. It's teams you don't want to be anywhere near. And I think that even though, hey, we're seeing Fernando Tatis Jr. has actually been playing better recently. He has hits in 10 of his last 12 games, homered yesterday, got another home run get robbed. Xander Bogaerts over his last 20 games is hitting over 300 with a nearly 950 OPS. Even when they're getting some contributions from some of these guys, they're still struggling to score 2 runs a game, 3 runs a game, 4 runs a game. And that's what's so concerning is, even if everyone starts hitting again, you still have a lot of holes in the bottom of the lineup that can't be fixed by any internal solution.
Yeah, exactly. And that's going to be the big question. What is AJ Preller and this front office, his lieutenants, going to do? And just before we jump into it, Kyle, one other thing that I thought might be like another silver lining for them is Michael King throwing again yesterday. He threw his first real bullpen. He talked to the media afterwards. And the good thing about the nerve, allegedly, is it's not like an injury that you have to build back from. It's either firing or it's not. So all he's doing right now is, because he missed so much time, he's just trying to work himself back up as if he's coming out of spring training. He needs to just work himself back up for innings. If all of that does pan out, and again, we're asking for more ifs and things to go perfectly, but if that is the case with that nerve, then you are getting back a fresh pitcher who should be a big boost to this starting rotation. But as you mentioned, it's not necessarily the rotation and the pitching, it's the offense. So who does AJ Preller go after? I mean, we've got the draft coming up this weekend. Things should start moving after that, after the All-Star game. We got the trade deadline at the end of July. Who is AJ Preller going to target there, and what positions should he be targeting?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to consider with the Padres. Right now, we talk about there are really 2 automatic outs at the bottom lineup right now. That's whoever's playing catcher that day, and really that number 8 spot, whoever they're cycling through the DH spot. I've talked about this enough. I don't need to hammer it home anymore. There's no excuse for Luis Campusano not to be up as the Padres' everyday DH. He's not any worse than the guys they're running out there. As long as the Padres leave him in AAA, they're wasting games. They're wasting at-bats. It's a little bit self-sabotaging. In terms of the trade deadline, and we can get into this more in depth after we take a break, but I think the number one thing is you have to solve the catching situation, because right now the level of production you're getting from Elias, Diaz, and Martin Maldonado is so atrocious, and there's no internal solution. People are going to say Campusano, if he could catch, he'd be catching for the Padres right now. The receiving's an issue. Some of the intangibles, focus, maturity, leadership, those have always been issues, but he can hit. So Campusano comes up at DH. Again, you can live with Gavin Sheets in left field. He's been getting a little better out there. What the Padres have no internal solution for, and what they have to go out and get, is a catcher. And to me, the number one guy out there right now is Sean Murphy with the Braves. Murphy's a top-tier catcher when he's healthy. The last 2 years, he hasn't been super healthy. The Braves are out of it. They're not going to rebuild, but they're going to do a little bit of a reset. And Drake Baldwin, their homegrown catcher, has really stepped up and been a productive part of the Braves team this year. He's cut into Sean Murphy's playing time. It's not clear Murphy really has an everyday role moving forward. That's someone the Padres absolutely could use. He'd be a huge upgrade overall for the catching spot, not just this year, but in future years. The only concern is the money. He's on a $15 million contract this year, so the Padres would owe the rest of that. $15 million in future years. We know Padres payroll is kind of at its limits right now. They'd have to be creative with the money. But if I'm the Padres and I'm looking at who can I go get? Who do I need the most? What do I need to spend all of my prospect and financial resources on? It's a catcher. And you have a chance to buy low on an all-star caliber catcher in Sean Murphy. That should be Padres priority number one, on top of getting Luis Campusano up to the majors ASAP.
Do you want to take a break, Kyle, and then we'll get into that catching situation?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do it. Hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll jump right back into it.
AJ, we're in Vegas right now, and I have not had a lot of time to eat during the day. So
no.
What could we do?
I would love a Huel right now. Vanilla Huel would go down perfectly, because when I have to skip meals because I'm too busy doing what you do in Vegas, which is not eat, I need a quick replacement, and Huel is the perfect thing.
I'm a chocolate guy myself. It's got the chocolate milkshake vibes to it. If you miss a meal, Huel can be your answer. If you're looking for a big protein boost, Huel can be your answer. So go check it out. Our friends at Huel are part of today's sponsorship. They've got you covered, spelled Huel. That black edition is a complete meal to feel full, focused, and ready for your day. Little prep, basically no prep. Shake it, open it. Huel has sold over 500 million meals around the world, and now it's your turn to try it. So go to Huel.com/foul and get Huel today with the exclusive offer for the FT fam of 15% off for new customers if you use the code, you know it, FOUL, minimum $75 purchase. Get after it.
Kyle, the trade deadline is always so mystifying to me, because you look at what AJ Preller did last year and really hit on it with the relievers in the bullpen, and they were able to take the Padres into the postseason, and those were really good moves that he made. And I think it's easier sometimes for pitchers to be traded. I think you can sort of lock in maybe and just get on the mound and do your thing. I don't know. It's just a theory, but it can be really difficult for a hitter to suddenly have to become the missing piece, get moved over. Like, this is the guy that's supposed to get your team over the hump, over the edge. And you know, in the span of 24 hours, you're with a whole new organization. You're trying to figure out how your family is going to move to a new place. What are your kids going to do? You're trying to learn the organization, learn the people in it, and you've got that pressure on you. It can be really tough on a player. So you really have to take those risks as strategically as possible. Yeah. But I agree with you. I think a catcher, I mean, to be able to upgrade at that position and then get a bat in the lineup that is going to help you at least a little more, right? Okay, This might be crazy. What do you think about bringing Kyle Higashioka back? I mean, the Rangers are going to be out of it, right? I mean, you'd be paying another $6 million next year. I don't think he's your answer long term, but he could kind of get you through the next year or two.
There's no question Kyle Higashioka is a great option B. I still think when you look at Sean Murphy, his ultimate upside, what he can bring to the team just in terms of with his bat, also defensively. I mean, let's not forget, this is one of the best defensive catchers in baseball when he's healthy, has a railgun for an arm. I still think if you're looking at what would maximize the ability this team has, Sean Murphy just elevates it a little bit more. And we've talked about this Padres offense. It's not like bringing one guy, whoever that one guy is suddenly going to take them from 27th in the majors in scoring to 15th. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to happen, but I do think shooting as high as they can in terms of offensive potential, that should be the goal. If for whatever reason they can't make the money work, if for whatever reason the Braves asking price is just too much, then sure, Kyle Higashioka is certainly a nice pivot option. But I do think Murphy's option A. I will say, Annie, there's one thing they can do to at least help themselves a little bit until a trade is made, because we're still 2 weeks from the deadline, and if they don't fix this, they could be out of it by then. Martin Maldonado has started 10 of the Padres' last 15 games. Elias Diaz has not started back-to-back games since May 30th. That needs to be completely flipped. Elias Diaz needs to be the primary catcher. When he was getting everyday playing time, again, it wasn't great. He was hitting 220s with a 670 OPS. Again, not great numbers, but it's 50 points of average higher than you were getting from Maldonado, and 100 points of OPS higher than you're getting from Maldonado. So I think the Padres really have to shift their mindset and understand how bad things are offensively, and that needs to be their number one priority. And that means Diaz needs to be the guy catching 10 out of 15 games, not Maldonado. And that means Campusano needs to be in the lineup every day as a DH ASAP.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see if Campusano is going to come up, and is it going to be I guess, a few days before the All-Star break, or are they going to maybe do it after the All-Star break? I don't know. But the thing I want to echo though too, Kyle, is exactly that. Like, you can definitely, you want to improve the lineup and improve it at the bottom of the lineup, of course. Like that is a place where we're seeing bases loaded and then, no outs or one out. And a lot of times they don't drive anyone in, or maybe they get one guy in, and it's usually the bottom of the lineup that's up at that point. But it's not all on them, as we know, as you just mentioned. You can get the best hitter in the world to come be part of that bottom of the lineup. If your top six, if your core six, your core four, even at least, are not producing and you're middle of the lineup, at least most of the time, it's all for naught, So and I think everyone can agree that they've got to get more consistent. Even if you get some pieces, this whole lineup has to just try. You're not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to all be hitting at the same time, but you've got to find some more consistency.
No question about it. And that actually brings us to, I think, a good spot for our DraftKings player spotlight. We're going to take a look at who one of those key players are the Padres really need to step up. All right, Annie. So you hit on it. The Padres need to get more from the top of their lineup. And the key that makes everyone go is Fernando Tatis Jr. Again, Manny Machado has been solid all year. Luis Arias has been fine, not his typical, 320, 330, 340 self, but he's been pretty solid. He's come through for the Padres in a lot of spots. But we all know Fernando Tatis Jr. is the guy who makes this offense go when everything is right. And I think right now, if you're the Padres, you're looking for just the little wins. And I think it's important to note that Tatis, over his last 12 games, again, small sample, but he has hits in 10 of his last 12. He's hitting in the 280s. Both his on base and slug are over 400 in that stretch. So the hope is we're starting to see him come out of it. But Annie, you can speak to this as well as myself and everyone who's been in that clubhouse. A lot of this has been mental. He's been sullen at times. He's been very, very down. And even when he has a good game, it's been deep breath, feeling like the pressure's off, as opposed to that loose, energetic Tatis we all know and love. And that's when he's at his best. Yeah,
no doubt about it. Tatis having fun is the best Tatis out there. And when he is feeling that, he's magnetic. It riles up the rest of the clubhouse. It riles up the fans. It gets an energy, just a very tangible energy. You feel it at the ballpark when that's happening. And he is someone who is learning more and more to try to maneuver his emotions, because obviously you can tell when he's down, and he has been honest about that and said, I've been down lately, and it's been hard for me to snap out of it. And I think a lot of that is he cares a lot. He doesn't like failing on that level. He doesn't like not coming through. He got off to one of the best starts of his career to start the season. He was in early MVP talk, probably ridiculous to talk MVP at that point, but still he was that good, And I think coming out of this offseason, he's years removed away from that suspension, from his surgery. So he felt really good. And Kyle, I asked him last night after the game, because he hit that home run, and then he hit another almost home run. And he has been doing better, as you alluded to earlier in this episode. I said, hey, why don't, you worked with your dad on that stance in the offseason on his approach. It was working really well for you. Like, why deviate? Why go away from it? Because his dad's been in town this last week and they've been working more on his mechanics. Yeah. And he said, when you come into the season, your body's feeling great. Everything feels awesome. The season starts going on, things start aching, hurting. You don't feel the same. You start compensating and you don't even know it. And then all of a sudden you're in these bad habits. You're trying to get back, but now you're feeling that pressure, so you can see, as you just mentioned, Kyle, it becomes very mental, very psychological. And one thing sort of dominoes onto another. And that's kind of what he said last night too, is it's really tough because it's a lot of everything. It's a lot of everything that has to kind of come together. This guy's a great hitter. I know that there's people who are going to keep harping on the suspension and this and that. And he knows, that was a down point in his life. But he can hit. He can play. Fernando Tatis Jr. is still a really great player. Yeah. He gets back to that, Kyle, and I think it's like getting a new player. It's just a matter of, this is one of the worst slumps of his career. I mean, how, when and how he's getting back to that. But we're starting to see some glimpses, so that's good.
Yeah, he was hitting 211 over a 7-week stretch. And again, he's starting to come out of it. And I spoke to Mike Schilt about this after the game last Saturday. And again, it was notable. The first thing Schilt went to was not, mechanics, was not pitch selection, was not approach. He just wished Fernando Tatis Jr. would not put so much pressure on himself. And we've all seen that. And I want to be clear, I've seen, some various folks on social media, or just, general out there in the baseball media world talking about, oh, he doesn't care. He's not trying. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
2015, Matt Kemp and BJ Upton, they didn't care. They'd strike out. I was like, whatever, fine. That's not at all what Fernando Tatis Jr. or Jackson Merrill have been doing. Nothing could be further from the truth. When in that clubhouse, Tatis is part of the reason he's been so frustrated is because he knows what he's capable of and he wants to do more. He cares an extraordinary amount. Jackson Merrill's just been ticked off. He's an elite competitor. You can feel the anger simmering underneath there, and he's going to have to learn to control that a little bit. That's a little bit behind why he's chasing so much. But at the end of the day with Tatis, once he got selected to the All-Star game, we saw him smile a little bit. It was really the first time we'd seen him actually like a broad smile. It'd been a few weeks. So I think there's some good signs here. But again, it's only been 12 games, and we need to see it continue.
I hope he goes to the All-Star game and he just kind of remembers who he is. You know what I mean? Like, remember, hey, you're around all these great players. You're a great player too. Let's get simpatico on it. Let's all line up and go be great, and I think sometimes maybe you just need a little bit of that confidence boost. And it's funny that you mentioned Jackson Merrill, because I was talking to Torey Lovello about him yesterday with the comparisons of Corbin Carroll. Yeah. And he was saying how with Corbin Carroll, Corbin needed to try less. And the same thing kind of with Jackson, and even with Fernando, a lot of these players try less. Don't try so much because you care so much. You start kind of really trying to hold it, super, super tightly to you. And maybe you just got to take a little step back. So this All-Star break could be good for a lot of those guys in that sense, hopefully.
Absolutely. The Padres certainly need it. And we'll see what he's able to do. Again, this has been our DraftKings Player Spotlight. Everyone, I highly, highly encourage you. There's a lot of great stuff going on at DraftKings right now, including their Pick 6. You can go online and check out now, pick 2 or more players, what you think they're going to do. Are they going to get more hits, less hits, more strikeouts, less strikeouts? I think for this upcoming game on Friday, looking at Ranger Suarez, Manny Machado, and Xander Bogaerts, I'm picking them both to have a hit in this game. Again, Manny Machado has been swinging the bat well all year. Xander Bogaerts has been swinging the bat especially well recently. I like those right-left matchups. Ranger Suarez has kind of owned the Padres in recent years, but in terms of this, I feel confident. I'm going to go with Machado and Bogaerts both get a hit tonight. How about you, Annie?
I like that. I agree. I'm hoping to see Bogey just kind of continue on his trajectory, because I think those are good picks. He's been hitting the ball hard. Unfortunately, hitting it right at people many times, but he has been hitting the ball hard. We've been seeing some more hits from him. Another RBI last night. So for Xander Bogaerts, I do think it's still in there. Maybe not to the point that we've seen yet. We at least can't say that, right? That he had with the Red Sox. But I do think that there's still a great hitter in there. And it's just a matter of getting that to come out and him finding his place with the Padres. But I like those picks, Kyle. And they're going to have their hands full against the Phillies. I mean, I don't think it's a given that the Phillies are going to come in here and dominate the Padres, but the Phillies, I think we can agree, are going to play the Padres really hard, and they've got 3 really good starters for this series.
No question. And again, just before we dive into that again, I encourage everyone, check out Pick 6 on DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, as Annie and I did, and boom, you're in the mix for some big cash prizes. Nail your picks, heating up. Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Pick 6 from DraftKings is the most fun way to play fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get a special sign-up offer. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
I should have added Gavin Sheets to that DraftKings pick, because he's going to be a dad. He's about to have his first kid. So I feel like he's feeling it right now. Anyways, we'll see.
And he's done better against lefties too. That's been one of the encouraging things. He's had some big hits against lefties, which that was one of the big questions coming into the season. That's been a positive development for the Padres. Really everything Gavin Sheets, but especially recently, we've seen some, again, really nice stroke singles the other way against lefties, which is exactly what you want to do. So it's not a bad pick for tonight against Ranger Suarez.
But this is going to be a tough series, right, Kyle? I mean, you've got 3 starters who all have sub sub-3 ERAs. And this is a tough team. The Phillies play tough typically.
No question about it. The Padres have their hands full in this final series before the All-Star break. Ranger Suarez tonight, Zach Wheeler on Saturday, Christopher Sanchez on Sunday. As you mentioned, all three are guys with sub-3 ERAs. Ranger Suarez owns the Padres. Zach Wheeler is a Cy Young candidate, and Christopher Sanchez just shut the Padres down over 7 innings during the most recent road swing to Philadelphia. We know the Padres struggle against left-handed pitchers. They've done so all year, so it's not a favorable matchup from that perspective. But the biggest thing, again, is the Padres are 16-30 against teams with winning records this year. They have yet to show they can compete consistently with the big dogs. And when you talk about the National League right now, I know the Phillies have had some struggles, but you look at the talent on paper, this is the second most talented team in all of baseball, I believe, behind only the Dodgers. This is an elite caliber team. And if you're the Padres, you have to show you can do something against these guys at home. Again, they, went 1-2 against them in Philly, won one game of the doubleheader. But given how uninspiring this home stretch has been against Texas and Arizona, two sub-500 teams, only being 4-3 against them, not scoring more than 4 runs in any game. Again, this is a series where you want them to show something. I think realistically, expecting them to win the series right now, that's a stretch. You just want to say, hey, can we get a 5 spot, a 6 spot, a 7 spot? Show that we can do something offensively against the good teams and the good pitchers. Because right now, the Padres have yet to show they can do that.
Yeah, that's a great point. And Mike Schultz said last night, it's legal in baseball to win games 8-2 or 9-4. They don't all have to be 1-run games, essentially, and he did lament some of the missed opportunities. I think the Padres were like 2 for 12 or something with runners, even though they had double-digit hits and 4 runs. It was something like that, right? 2 for 12 with runners in scoring position or whatnot. So they do have room for improvement there. And you know what, Kyle, you're right. Like, go into the All-Star break feeling good about at least getting the offense going. Maybe you don't sweep the series. Hopefully for them, they win the series, but I agree with you. It's a tall task. So, but kind of get your offense going and start to see some positive signs that you feel like you can pick up again after the All-Star break, right? Because these Phillies, I mean, it's a tough team, and you've got to also play these games pretty perfectly, both sides. You can't really give up much to a team like that because they're going to take advantage of it. The other thing, Kyle, too, is like you need to see that. I think it's good for your confidence too to start beating some of these kinds of pitchers. Because these are who you're going to see in the playoffs. I mean, you get to the postseason; these are the kinds of pitchers you're going to see.
No question about it. And I think for the Padres, too, where this could really be an important boost is coming out of the break. They actually have a fairly soft schedule. They go to Washington against the Nationals, followed by a series at the Miami Marlins. Again, you never know what's going to happen on the road, especially cross country. But if the offense can just show some signs of life here, get a little bit of something going, guys get off their legs for a few days during the All-Star break, come out, and maybe we'll be able to see the Padres actually live up to their words and say, we're a second-half team. We expect to really take off in the second half. Look, they did it last year, but there's also been plenty of times where they said that and nothing has happened. 2023 comes directly to mind. That entire season, the mantra was, we're so talented, just wait, we're going to break out. And by the time they finally found signs of life, it was way too late into the season. So I think for the Padres, it's a little bit, okay, words are nice, but you have to have action and production to back it up. Again, the truth is, if they get dominated this series and they score 2 runs in 3 games, it wouldn't be a surprise. But I think regardless of how it goes, you have to use this All-Star break to reset, make changes, bring up Campusano, start moving Diaz into your primary catch role instead of Martin Maldonado, come out on Friday against Washington with a little bit of a new look lineup, some rested guys, and hope good things happen. Continuing to just do the same thing over and over again with the same guys and more or less the same lineup constructions. There's a difference between being patient and passive. That's not being patient. That's being passive at this point. And passivity is just not going to cut it.
Yeah. And for Preller, as well know, Kyle, documenting this for your entire career, you've got to find someone to line up with you that you feel good about on the other side. I mean, he could be going and making all the calls in the world, but or they need to be willing to maybe give something more away that they don't necessarily want to. But I know that that's a slippery slope too, depending on what you're trying to build for the future. Yeah. So this is going to be a really interesting run for them because those second half stats from Mike Shildt, and they go all the way back to the St. Louis Cardinals and how he ran that team as well, right?
Yeah.
Those are great, but we know in baseball all the time, it doesn't always work the way it always worked in the past, right? It
No.
never, yeah, it's kind of runs out sometimes. So I agree with you. This is still a good team. This is still a team that can make it where they want to go, but they're going to have to make these changes, and they're going to have to step up really in the second half, because this division and even the National League as a whole is relentless. You just don't have a whole lot of room to slide.
I actually think these next 13 days are going to be what determines whether or not the Padres are buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. You have these 3 games against Philly, then the All-Star break, then 6 games against the Nationals and Marlins. On July 24th, you start 6 games against the Cardinals and Mets. The schedule gets a lot tougher. If on July 24th, you have scuffled against teams like the Marlins and the Nationals, at that point, it's going to be hard to say, yeah, we should buy. We should absolutely try and go for this. I think if they go 2-7, 3-6 over this stretch, and we look up on July 24th and they're struggling to stay above water and they're going into a really, really tough stretch against the Cardinals and Mets, the conversation becomes a lot more oriented to, yeah, they probably should sell, because it's hard to have any faith this is a playoff team. If they're able to show they're competitive against the Phillies, even if they lose the series, if they're able to show, hey, we can actually compete against a good team, and then they take care of business against the Marlins and Nationals, go 4-2, 5-1. Okay, maybe that becomes a little more, yeah, there is something here. It is worth investing, some of our future talent to improve the team now. I really think that July 24th is a little bit of a cutoff date for this franchise, and how they do until then is going to determine which way they should go.
Yeah. And as much as I just said, don't base the present necessarily on the past. They did come out of last year's All-Star break. What was it, like 50-49 or 49-50, whatever it was, right? And they lost the first game, and then they went on an absolute tear. So you're right. I mean, look, this could be these next few weeks after the All-Star break, and they've got a good shot against those teams. Again, you're right. On the road, you never know, but hopefully fresh, rested, excited to really make a push. And I will say in the clubhouse, a lot of times players, as you know, they never lose belief, or at least not publicly. They're never going to stop belief. But last night there was a shift in how they were talking. It was a shift in, like, we know we need to get it going. We are going to get it going. We know what needs to happen. It was more of a kind of, instead of it being very flowery, and it was more of like hard nose. We got to put our foot to the gas pedal, and we've just got to keep our heads down and go, and so look, talk is talk. We got to see it play out in action, but it did feel like a little bit of a shift in the clubhouse in terms of their determination to just really hunker down, and we'll see how that plays out. But going to be an interesting few weeks. Kyle, anything to add before we sign off?
I would just say, I think this is going to be one of the most fun series of the weekend. Again, the Phillies coming into town. They're a great team with a lot of talent. The Padres trying to finish off this homestand on a strong note. We know how rabid and wild Petco Park can get. I think this weekend is going to be a blast. And again, we'll see what the Padres are able to do. Again, for Ranger Suarez, Zach Wheeler, and Christopher Sanchez. But regardless of how it goes, this is going to be a lot of fun baseball this weekend.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see these two teams go at it, and should be fun to lead into the All-Star break. So hopefully see a lot of people down there, or a lot of people that are watching this episode down at Petco. And great to be chatting with you as always, Kyle. Great conversation. And I'm sure by next week, everything will be different. So we'll
Absolutely.
see. All right. Thanks so much. And thanks to everybody for watching Friar Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network. And we will catch you on the next one.